Hey guys, welcome back to the JPM Performance channel. It is of course time for a shop tour, and last week we talked about how much snow we got and how cold it is, and nothing has changed. The snow has not melted because it's been freezing, and I love January, but I hate the cold. So the older you get, I guess this is why people move to Florida, right? Here we are, January 16th. We are halfway through January, and like I said, it's cold outside. So we are in the shop working away. So all sorts of things to talk about. We'll do a couple of recaps from the race weekends and just kind of wander through the shop. So first thing I'm working on here is actually, it's not something that I do a lot of, but this is a Honda front wheel drive transmission. Just doing a quick look over, check, make sure everything's looking in good shape, get it all back together. Might do a ring and pinion ratio change, we'll see. I don't do a lot of these, so it takes me a little bit of time, but they're not that hard to work on. But super different from, say, a Miata transmission or like this, you know, EGMT. So waiting on a couple parts, we'll get that back together. We had already talked about the EGMT being together. I do have Hugh McAfee's cylinder head stripped down, cleaned up, ready, waiting on some parts for it as well. Waiting on some parts for the transmission. You guys have probably noticed this over the last month, especially with the fires out in California and the snow that we have had. Shipping is like delayed. Like you can't get anything. If they tell you normally it's 2 or 3 days, plan on it being a week. So this time of year, this kind of happens, especially with everybody buying stuff on Amazon, because you buy stuff for Christmas and then you return it, and it keeps all the carriers super busy. Believe me, my UPS guy despises this time of year. So anyway, waiting on parts. So, okay, we'll start with our first recap. You can see I've already got Ken's car up on the lift. Joe took the car and the trailer and they went down to Homestead 2 weeks ago, and they were at Sebring last weekend. And the report is, couldn't have been better. 4 wins for Ken to start out the season. So 2 wins at Homestead, had some good competition from Chris Bovis. Yeah, but it was able to pull off all 4 wins. The car's in flawless shape. I'm actually in the middle of a planned engine change. So this engine has been in the car now for about 2.5 seasons. So it's time to get this out. Next race weekend is going to be Road Atlanta in March. So I thought I'd go ahead and get started here and get to working on this, but a great weekend. So well, I always like to do a recap with the guys that, you know, I'm prepping their cars, and the response was everything was fine. Joe said it was like the easiest 2 race weekends he's ever had, and Ken said the car was great and it worked good. Can't ask for much more than that. So back to it. So prep is key. And what do I always say? Don't let your car sit. So even though, you know, this is not my race car and we've got about 7 weeks until our next race, you have to get started, because what happens if you find something in a month and then you can't get parts? So I'm going to get this motor and transmission out. I'm going to get after this project. And like I always do, I kind of chip, right? Chip. So speaking of chipping away, I'm starting to get some bits and pieces in for Jerry's car. So you can see, and you guys have probably heard of this place, McMaster Car. They've got all sorts of stuff on their website. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I've got a Seal-Zit grommet that I'm going to use on the firewall over there. I've got some riv nuts. These are actually going to be for where the windscreen mounts. Before, you actually had to get your hand under the windscreen to hold a nut here on the back side. So I'm actually going to install these riv nuts in the mounting tabs so that you can just yank the bolts out and pull the windscreen easy. I've got some more firewall plugs here. And of course, you guys know I don't like running hoses through firewalls without bulkhead connectors. So I'm actually going to use this 6AN bulkhead connector right over there for the fuel line coming through the firewall. So while the engine and transmission obviously over there are in process, I'm going to continue to chip away at this. So we're looking pretty good here. Did get in that rocker. I think you may have seen it last week, I can't remember. But fortunately, this one actually fits. So fits properly to the car. I just need to get it mounted in, get the rear fender back on, get the rocker reinstalled. So we're looking really good. And actually should have the cylinder head back. Who knows, might even be on the engine next week for the next week's shop tour. So cylinder head's almost done. I'm going to get this back together. Should be looking really good. I need to get a car out of the shop pretty quickly because I've got a new car in from last week and another one coming on Monday. And as you can see, the shop is really full. So this is Rich Grunwald's car. Now, if this car looks familiar, that is because this is Joe Smith's old STL race car. So it is here for an engine refresh and a few little minor details to spruce it up. So Rich and his wife came and dropped it off last Friday. And it is just kind of sitting over here for now until I have a little bit of room to, get after it. But yeah, it's really good to see this old girl back. This car was originally an ITA car, and Bob Bramlage and Joe Smith had it as an IT car, and we ran some Enduros in this car. And then Joe and I, mainly Joe of course, converted the car to an STL car. So it's a really nice little car. But the motor's got about 3 seasons on it now, so time for a refresh on that. And while Rich showed up, Rich is the guy that's going to get the shout out of the week because he brought me a complete, and these things are heavy, a complete Mazda 2 door. So he found a door at a junkyard. You can see that it is completely filthy. So it's probably been sitting with the door propped open for a while. I don't know. But shout out to Rich for bringing me this door. Obviously it's not the right color, but it doesn't really matter because we're going to wrap it anyway. But this is going to be a whole nother project just to strip this down. So I don't know how heavy this thing is. It's got to be like 50 or 60 pounds. It's got to be like 60 pounds, right? And it needs to be turned into this, which probably weighs about 15 pounds. So a whole lot of work. More body work, my favorite thing. So a whole lot of work still to be done on the door. While I was showing you guys, remember last week I was showing you about the little cool tool thing for the Air-Equip or for the Air-Equip lines. I got the lines completed. You can see that they're running through the car, the long ones that go up to the front. And all I have to do now is fasten them. So I'll show you guys the way I like to do that over the next couple weeks. But you can see right now they're just kind of laying in here loose. So I'll get them fastened down, show you guys how I like to do that. And also, if we go back over to the other side of the car here, they were, believe it or not, they were complaining about my numbers at the runoffs on the Mazda 2. I don't know how many blue chrome Mazda 2s there were at the runoffs, but I was the only one. So, took the numbers off of the window here, and John came up with this. It's kind of like tint. You can see through it, but it gives it a black background. And what we're going to try is we're going to try this brushed aluminum silver on the black background here. So hopefully timing and scoring will leave us alone a little bit. So we're looking good on that. So once I get the fuel lines done, John's chipping away on that. I have started on replacing this one line that runs from the filter down to the regulator. I'm going to replace this line as well. And then the fuel program will be completed. So we're looking good. Did talk to the guy that's working on my shocks. Sounds like I'll probably have shocks the 1st of February, so hopefully only probably 2 or 3 weeks, probably 3 weeks. You know how 2 weeks turns into 3 weeks, 3 weeks turns into 4 weeks. I got to get my shocks back so we can get these in the car as well. But I trust this guy, so we should be looking really good. So really excited about how the car's coming together and get this finalized and start getting it prepped, because the Mazda 2 obviously is going to go to Atlanta as well. Atlanta is shaping up to be a big race. Man, I've talked to a bunch of people that are going. It's going to be tons of fun. So it'll be good to get our numbers up in H production, of course, and all the production classes, and get the season started. I mean, we can't all go down to Florida like Ken. Ken actually lives in Sebring in the wintertime, so easy for him to get to the races. So lots to do still. And like I said, another car coming in next Monday. One engine going out. Actually, I've had 2 engines go out in the last week. So working hard, man. It is that time of year. I appreciate you guys watching as always. Have a great rest of your week. If it's cold where you're at, which I know it probably is for a lot of you, stay warm. And I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Take care.